Hello there, welcome to Strife's Talking Points. Today I'm just kind of, I don't know, I'm sitting here going through the news and I find some of this stuff so interesting I just can't stop talking about it. So here is 50 former national security officials to challenge Trump. You see Donald Trump again dares courts to stop him. President Trump declared a national emergency to secure funding for the border wall. Essentially, I believe diverting it from the military. Not 100% sure on that, but this is kind of the thing about national emergencies. Well, let's just do the thing here. The act empowers the president to activate special powers during a crisis, but imposes certain procedural formalities when invoking such powers. The perceived need for the law arose from the scope and number of laws granting special powers to the executive in times of national emergency. Congress can undo any emergency declaration with either a joint resolution and the president's signature or with veto-proof two-thirds majority vote. Powers available under this act are limited to the 136 emergency powers defined by Congress. That is a lot of powers. Congress has delegated at least 136 districts statutory emergency powers to the president upon declaration of emergency. Only 13 require a declaration from Congress. The remaining 123 are invoked by an executive declaration with no congressional input. The emergency presidential powers are dramatic and range from suspending all laws regulating chemical and biological weapons, including a ban on human testing, suspending Clean Air Act, what? We don't have to be able to breathe. Excess emissions penalty, authorizing construction, military construction, and projects. Oh, so it's right there. Past 1982, using existing defense appropriations for specific military constructions. 10.4 for any retired Coast Guard officers, enlisted members past. All right, so essentially they give him to construction powers, military spending, and invocations. So essentially what the Emergency Act is it allows the president to act under special powers in times of national emergency. Now, it's odd that that is not clearly defined anywhere as far as what is a national emergency. I have found there exists a national emergency arising from the insufficiency of maritime tonnage to carry the products to farms, forests, and mines and manufacturing industries of the United States to their customers abroad. This was in February 15th of 1917. That is way back when. Presidents asserted the power to declare emergencies without limiting the scope of their duration, without certain relevant statutes, and without congressional oversight. So basically the president for short term can basically declare what he wants, and as long as he's within these powers and Congress doesn't move to veto him, he can kind of do what he wants under the amendment, under the act there. So what did Trump do? Trump declared a national emergency on the border, and we're going to look at kind of where national emergencies come into play. This will be the final thing here. I actually want to look at that at the very end. Here's a list of national emergencies from Trump, from Barack Obama, and going back, way back when. You see there weren't really many, then they ramped up a little bit, then they ramped up a little bit, then they ramped way up, and they just keep going up. So Trump's emergencies are pretty simple. Blocking certain property, contributing to the situation in Nicaragua. Essentially, we would think of that more as like a regime change. They are trying to push that. imposing certain sanctions on in the event of foreign interference in the United States election. Of course, that goes back to the 2016 election, where they're basically trying to root out what was going on. Blocking property of persons involved in serious human rights or corruption. That seems kind of open. I think that will go along with the Obama here, where he declared sort of the executive order here. Executive Order 13581, blocking property and transnational criminal organizations. Obama went after Yakuza, Camorra, the Brothers Circle, a family of 11, the 20, Los Zetas, kind of in that vein. But you see a lot of these, though, are very strictly targeted at foreign countries, which have no effect overall on the U.S. in any type of substantive way. I mean, let's look here. Burundi. I had to look up Burundi. I had actually never heard of it. It is a very poor nation in Africa that is, at the time, was having a kind of a blow-up and a kind of a violent oppression of the different groups there. 10.4 million people, 300,000 died in the Civil War. It's considered one of the poorest countries. It is one of the poorest 2 countries in the world. And we declared a national emergency over stuff that was happening in that country. Now, national emergency in a African republic, that doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. Here, blocking of personal property, engaged in malicious cyber-enabled activities. This is, again, the I believe the election meddling that we've had going on, which has turned out to be almost nothing. Blocking in Venezuela. Another regime change, something that most of these are focused on. You'll notice Burundi changed the way the country operates. Venezuela changed the way the country operates. Blocking in the Central African Republic changed the way the country operates. None of these are direct threats or really push into the United States. Blocking property, South Sudan, not in the U.S. Situation in Ukraine. Now here we have a major power, Russia, Ukraine, NATO. This could be would be contrived. However, there was no actual. He just blocked, threw up the national emergency, and kind of stopped there. Blocking government of Russian Federation to dispose highly enriched uranium cells, revoked in 2015. Stability of Yemen, again, regime change. This is the one where he's actually blocking criminal organizations with ties in the U.S. So that one will count as something that actually affected the U.S. Venezuela, Central African Republic, South Sudan, Ukraine. Again, this is Russia and Ukraine. Yemen. This is the transnational criminal organizations. Libya. Again, this is kind of towards the Arab Spring. Pushing for regime change. Somalia. Again, Somalia, I don't know if you know this, is a country where you have massive, essentially think of them as tribes, mobile tribes. They don't really, they're more nomadic than we would ever think of as a modern civilization. That's kind of how they live there. And that's one of the more interesting things about Somalia is the government has completely folded. It has been in a state of chaos for years, and they're blocking this. This is the Somali pirates. There was a movie about that. And a national emergency, which H1N1. So something that actually involved the U.S., one. Something that involved nuclear treaties. Something that involved transnational criminal organizations, also operating in the U.S., and malicious cyber attacks in the U.S. So 4 out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So Yeah, 4 out of 12. So a third of the national emergencies declared by Obama were had something to do with the U.S. The rest were either regime change or foreign affairs, not the U.S. Here we go. Blocking involved in serious human rights abuse and corruption. Again, that can involve the U.S. Imposing foreign interference in the U.S. and the situation in Nicaragua. Now, what we're seeing now is a lot of people flooding up from Central and South America to the U.S. Via the whole idea of open borders that we have going on right now. So maybe you could call that one. However, the border wall would be a deterrent for that.
Where backlash over his decision to declare a national emergency has followed him.
All right, so declaring a national emergency over something that's actually happening directly to the U.S. is suing over that. However, declaring all these national emergencies to inflict regime change, to essentially get out there and change other nations' governments publicly by shutting down trade, by whatever, these are all okay. North Korea, that could be considered because of the nuclear bombs. Lebanon, democracy process. Congo, Belarus. I don't know what this is. Côte d'Ivoire, don't know. Liberia, Syria. This is the Iraq War, but in there you see Zimbabwe, terrorist actions. You see all these different things of all these different parties, always focused on other countries. Africa, the Middle East. These are where you see the national emergencies. Our national emergency is something happening in Africa. Can't even say the word. Oh my Lord. And then we actually have a... Now, where does the border wall stop immigrants? It does not. If you enter the country legally through a port of entry or through a city or town, you still come in now normally. Airports, whatnot, ships. If you walk across the border illegally, then you will have to climb a wall now, which may be a deterrent, may not be. We spend approximately $110 billion in this year on illegals, and that is the weird part to me. If we spend $10 billion to build a wall, and then we spend, let's say, another $2 billion to maintain it, and it has an effect on the overall cost of illegals in the country, then great. I said I actually remember hearing about these border securities and these not walls, but barriers and such for decades now. However, now it's a suable offense. I don't know. You look at these executive orders, and they're all regime change. Obama was big on going after these other countries, Africa, Middle East, all these different places that really don't have any effect on the U.S. And now we have some going towards people who could actually walk here and just trying to slow down the illegal immigration, which a lot of places will tell you that the levels are dropping. Are they dropping because these countries are being told that we're building a wall, we're shutting this down, separation of families at the border? If you're coming in and you're trafficking children, you will be arrested and prosecuted instead of just flip back over the border. I mean, really, this is one of those time will tell things. However, I can't see any reason that the border wall holds any different standings when you can clearly see that most of these have been outward. For the last decades, all these things have been outwards. National emergencies declared because of all these other countries around the world. And there you go. We finally have one national emergency declared in the U.S. to handle specific U.S. problems, and it is just the worst thing ever. I don't know. What's your opinion? I'd like to know. Doesn't make a lot of sense to me that this is such a hotbed subject, but I'm in the middle. I just don't get it. So please leave your comments below. Thank you and have a great day. Goodbye.